All right, 6 o'clock, we'll call the September 24th, 2024 Town Board meeting to order. And just as a reminder, Linwood Township is utilizing video communication as part of its meetings. By participating in this meeting, you agree that your image and or voice may be recorded and retained as part of this meeting. All right, and let's rise to the pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Pam, do you have a prayer?
Do.
Thank you.
Holy God, we gather here as members of this board, and we thank you for calling us together. It is our privilege and our responsibility to perform our duties for Linwood Township. We accept this task in total dependence upon you, for it is you who began this work, and you who guide it and will bring it to fulfillment. Enable us to draw upon the wisdom and experience of yesterday as we respond to the questions and concerns of tomorrow. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, and as a reminder, we have one supervisor, Mike Parker, that's remote. So all votes will be by roll call. Pam, gonna do attendance?
Supervisor Searing?
Here.
Supervisor Olson?
Here.
Supervisor Milliburn?
Here.
Supervisor Ledke?
Here.
Supervisor Parker?
Here.
All
Here.
right.
Okay.
Yep, gotcha, Mike.
Hey, before we get going, we got a bunch of bad storms gonna go through here, so if I disappear, it's because we lost internet here.
All right, thank you. You might notice that under business, we don't have the approval of the agenda. This is a topic that I had talked with the clerk about, I think when I first came on. And I think by law, we don't have to actually approve an agenda. Although we should always at the beginning, offer everybody an opportunity to change it. But I just wanted to bring that up and find out what the board's pleasure is in terms of, do you want to go through the traditional process of actually discussing the agenda and then approving it? Or do you want to just make modifications to the agenda and then move on with it?
As long as there's a place to do it, because I'd like to amend and add, but the default, you're saying that if it's not there, we just, unless someone speaks right, this would be the place to do it?
It's more of, we can still do the same thing as far as adding and removing, modifying and stuff. It's just that technically you don't have to vote and approve an
No.
agenda. It's not a requirement of township law that I understand. So it's just a question, and I'm fine either way. Just a question.
Will we remember, will we realize that it isn't too late, or it just that if it comes up, then
See, that's the interesting part, is that there are several instances of where we've been conducting a meeting and we kind of get off track and we deal with topics that aren't on the agenda. So technically, there's been times that we've modified the agenda partway through after it's been approved. So, so that's why the question is out there. It's more of just having this discussion with the board.
so this way we can modify this anytime we want to.
Yeah, by law, technically, you can get partway through this and want to add something in that you forgot, and you could actually add it into the agenda.
Good.
Thoughts, Bob?
Fine. Okay.
Andy?
Yeah, as long as there's it's tough when you're, like, even now, this is changed from what we have. So I think that comes back to just an overall agenda discussion of when it's changed, the change notifications or what we gotta get stuff to. So I'm fine with whatever. I'd like to amend it to add claim 38442 to Minnesota deed for the unemployment claim that we talked about last week,
Okay,
at the last meeting.
that's old business, so 8A. Do you want that?
That works.
Okay, anything else?
Okay, I get to put my 2 bits in. I prefer to have an actual agenda up so that the people know what we're going to be, at least be kind of discussing if they want to come to the meetings. That's one nice thing about having an agenda, is that the public, if they see something they want to come there and speak to, then they can come there and speak to it. Versus if it's wide open, they're not gonna have a clue what we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, and we would still have the agenda. We wouldn't go away from the agenda. It's just that there wouldn't be the approval process at the beginning. And like I said,
Okay.
I'm fine either way. It's been tradition here for how many years? It's just, whatever the board's pleasure is.
Okay. Well, I prefer to have an agenda up there for us to approve to start out with, and we can amend it at the beginning of the meeting, but that's my 2 bits.
Okay,
Like I said, I'm fine memorializing it. Just so there's a place to
to memorialize it. Okay.
do it, so.
All right, we'll stay with tradition. All right. Andy, did you have anything else for the agenda?
Nope, just to add that one.
Anybody else have any modifications to the agenda? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda then?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second it.
Okay. Mike made the motion, Bob seconded it. Any discussion? Can I get a roll call? Go ahead, say it.
Yes, at the last meeting, the board decided that they would read the consent agenda and approve that.
So
That
that's,
gets approved separately. That's what was discussed at the last meeting.
so that's a good question because we don't have the agenda on here as a number. Do we approve the board agenda for the whole evening and then do the consent agenda next, or do we do the consent agenda and then approve it?
Consent agenda would go first because if you want to pull something out of there, you would put it later on in the
Oh,
agenda.
okay. I see what you're saying. Makes total sense.
So you would approve your consent agenda, then the next order of business would be to approve
It-
the
okay.
remaining agenda.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. All right, so then Mike, would you rescind and Bob rescind?
I shall.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's go to the consent agenda. So the consent agenda, do we have to read all these, Pam, each time, or? Probably a good idea, maybe.
Technically, yes.
Okay. All right, consent agenda includes approval of September 10th, 2024 Town Board meeting minutes. The claims list for approval, which is claims number 38478 to 38499 for a total of $118,256.70. It also includes regular payroll of 9/13/2024 with direct deposits 21498 to 21511 and EFTs of 21512 to 21514 for a total of $21,486.95. Also includes the treasurer and clerk's bank reconciliations of August 31st, 2024 equaling $2,177,407.26. Also includes budget balance report as of September 19th, 2024, the recycling check-in report, and the Midco contract renewals of 1-337-55901, also 1-337-66501, and 1-437-66801. We have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, could you do roll call, please?
Supervisor Parker,
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Olson,
Aye.
Supervisor Searing,
Aye.
Supervisor Ludke.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, now we can go back to the agenda. So we've already made the modification of 8A. Anything else? All right. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
All right. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Supervisor Parker,
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing,
Aye.
Supervisor Ludke.
Aye.
Supervisor Olson.
Aye. All right, motion passes. All right, we'll go on to number 2, planning and zoning. This is ordinance 217 rezoning of the address of 7227 Viking Boulevard, changing it from RA to a business district. And Susan, did you want to speak to that?
Yep, so the staff report is in your packets. The summary of the request is the applicant is requesting the map amendment, change of zone to the existing parcel. The applicant's property, the existing parcel at 7227 Viking Boulevard Northeast, from RA to B business. The applicant's property is 10.14 acres and is currently zoned RA residential agriculture. Parcel contains an existing residential structure and accessory structures and is used as a residence and a business. The parcel was previously identified as part of a desirable future potential business zoning area. The proposed rezone request will bring the current use of the property into better conformance with the Linwood Town Code. At its regular meeting on September 17th, 2024, following a correctly noticed public hearing, the Planning Commission unanimously voted to recommend approval of the proposed map amendment. Staff recommends that the Linwood Township Board of Supervisors adopt the staff report into the record, accept the application, testimony, exhibits, and other evidence presented into the record, and recommend that the town board approve the change of zone map amendment at 7227 Viking Boulevard Northeast from RA residential agricultural to B business with the following condition: the applicant to obtain an interim use permit to continue the open and outdoor storage of heavy equipment and materials. Alternatives, the Linwood Town Board could recommend denial for the rezone request and amend the findings of fact, or the Linwood Town Board could table the application and request further information from the applicant.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Oh, yes, at its regular meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously did vote to recommend approval of the proposed map amendment. It's okay.
Okay, is this part of the Broadbent property?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I've watched the meeting. And they talked about wells for testing. Is that any part of a staff recommendation to do any future testing of the wells for water purity?
I don't know that was specifically discussed at the Planning and Zoning Commission. I know the discussion had occurred, but I don't know that that was officially amended into the findings of fact to have that done.
Okay. So for the other supervisors, if you didn't watch or hear that, apparently they put 5 wells out there back when they were farming and periodically checked the quality of the water just to make sure that their farming wasn't contaminating the local water. So that if the board is concerned about water contamination, that would be something that we might want to add in as a condition, something that periodically that gets checked. Thoughts?
So the only question I have is it'd be a conditional use permit under business or interim?
It'd be interim use permit.
Okay. And that's allowed for business, but it's not allowed for agriculture.
Because of the outdoor heavy equipment, it's only allowed in the business district.
So you can have a farm and you can't have tractors outside under our current code.
I'd have to get into the farming one specifically, but as far as what is occurring, it's a heavy equipment that's not being used on the property. It's outdoor storage.
This goes back to just what I've been saying is our zoning code. It's 20 years old and it doesn't line up against districts. We've beat this over the head all year long, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
And to have some things for one thing, make a change to be this, and then you can do this. And then what do we have for residents on business? That'd be another permit
What was the question?
to have a residence on the business then?
Well, no, because it's a secondary use. There's accessory use.
Okay, now you got me confused. So we're changing it from an RA to a business. But the business is going to be a secondary use, so it's still a residential, but it's a business use. So what's the primary? If you say that the business use is a secondary use. What's the primary use?
I guess a portion of each. I haven't gotten specifically what the primary use is.
All right, I'm confused. So we're trying to make a secondary use for a property, but we don't know what the primary use of the property is. So we don't know if it's agricultural, residential, or what it is then, correct?
Well, the property is zoned currently as agricultural, but it's not actively being farmed. And a
Okay.
portion is being used for that outdoor equipment storage.
But I'll go back to Andy's question. So basically what we're saying is you can, on your RA, you can't have tractors and things like that, large tractors on there. But they have other equipment stored on it. So I agree with Andy. It's kind of confusing on what we're trying to do here. Because if you tell me it has to be business to put their equipment on there, how are we allowing an RA to have his tractors and combines and things like that on there?
Those are being used actually on that particular RA property. This equipment's not being used on this RA property. It's being transported off the property. It's simply being used for storage. It's not being actively used on the property.
Okay, and as far as I know, Broadbent doesn't have any crops or anything on that side of the property. His property's across the county road. So he's not actually using it on this property. So by what you're saying is that he can't have his tractors on the site because he's not using it there. Or am I just totally confused?
Well, I'm getting a little confused myself.
And I think that, like I said, I think that's just where it goes to where we have these zoning meetings and we talk about code and we just wheel spun down the accessory structure one. It doesn't seem like we're getting to the root of the issues is this is 20 years old and not like he's saying, because in his case, he just said right there, at that point, we're going to tell somebody they're out of compliance because they farmed the field across and they can't store the stuff there.
But it isn't their stuff.
So I'm simply speaking to the code and what the impacts this has to the future of Linwood. Take their stuff, whose stuff, I don't care. Right now, our code says we have a farming district and you can't store your tractors.
No, we don't.
Is that not what an RA is?
No. It just means it hasn't been developed. There's a lot of, all the property was RA.
Residential
got-
agriculture.
Correct, but that isn't,
But what I'm saying is those lots, when you look at them, are typically bigger, typically in the sense that you could do something agriculturally with them. You have permitted uses that you can do. You got 9 of them in which you don't have to do, you have to follow building codes, zoning codes, all that, but you got 9 things that you don't have to do a public hearing and do your things with. There's permitted uses in the RA. There's accessory uses and there's conditional uses. I guess my question is, why would we have a conditional use for a business that doesn't reflect that same conditional use to be an option in the RA? Because you're forcing a change that's impactful. And at that point, it should just exist for what it needs to be for the size of tract of land it is.
It isn't a conditional use though.
It's a use permit.
Yes.
Yes. It's another step, but then my question then is, where is the accessory use aspect? Because then is that going to be another permit to keep the house? Or now you're going to say you got a house on a business and you need to bulldoze that down?
so I think, in my mind, the applicants came and said, we would like the board to change our property to a business use. That's what they're requesting. This board and planning and zoning said, we're just going to wait till people come to us and then we'll look at their property. This property was identified as one for future business. Now they've come to you and asked, will you rezone this for business so we can use it for business?
I guess I come down
That's
to
the
the
question.
Okay, I guess I come down to the question is, did they come to us because they really want to do this, or they come to this because they had complaints against their property because there was commercial equipment stored on it?
I guess that's,
Because I think I heard something down the pipe here that there was a complaint against this piece of property and the commercial equipment that was stored on it. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it's something that I heard. So my question is, are we forcing this person to do this so he can keep this equipment on there? And to Carol's point, whether it's his or not, I could I could have my neighbor park a tractor on mine. It just doesn't make any difference if it's my tractor or his tractor, it's still a tractor. So my question is, are we forcing this person, we give this guy no other options except having to pay a penalty because he's got this equipment on his property and he may not want to change it, or is he doing it because he actually wants to do it?
Well, the way the code reads, it's out of compliance.
Because?
Because of the heavy equipment being stored outside and the materials. It is out of compliance for the R8 district.
I guess back to that question though. So the township has had no communications. They walked in here and said they want to do that.
I never heard anybody say there's been no communications.
Okay.
If you want to
Has
know
there
some
been?
history of it, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
we've
I
got a
do.
complaint. Okay, yeah. And again, that's why you call us before the meeting, so you can get this clarified. But
No.
let's do it here. Let's do it here. So, yes, the township receives a complaint. They get a letter. They came in, they spoke with Susan, and they said, what can we do?
Yes.
They were not allowed to continue, or they would not be allowed to continue the operation the way it was. One of their options is to have it rezoned to business.
Yes.
Now, see, this is some of the things that we should have been let know beforehand instead of keeping us in the dark about this.
Wow.
Whether it's
You
before
know-
the meeting
you know,
or at the meeting,
what's-
we need all this information so we know what we're dealing with.
I don't believe, so I know some of you weren't on the board before, but that was a board consensus that that should not be a factor in someone coming and asking to come in for an interim use permit or any of those kind of things. That shouldn't be a factor. If it is going to be, if this board decides that you want all of the history of how it got to this point, then we certainly can include that in there. Again, certain members of the board that were here before, the 5-member board that was here before said that's not a determining factor in us issuing that. We're going to look at that property and is that part of where we want to go as a township and consider it on that. Yes, it is part of an enforcement thing.
There.
And planning
Yes.
and zoning got this information. They went through a public hearing. They did everything they were supposed to do. They're recommending this. If every time they recommend something, you're gonna second guess them, there's no point in having planning and zoning.
Oh, wait a second. We're the determining board. We make the decision about this. They recommend, we approve, Carol.
I understand that, but there's no point in having them if you're never gonna take their opinions.
99% of the time, Carol, we take that opinion.
No, you don't. Joe, let Joe talk, will you?
Yep, hold on one second, Mike. Joe, did you want to speak?
I cannot hear Joe. Come on, Joe, talk to me.
Joe Dolphy on the Linwood Planning and Zoning Commission. Is this on?
Mike, can you hear Joe now?
I can, sounds
Okay,
You're
good.
good.
All right. Planning and zoning got the information. Regardless of whether there was a complaint or not, a resident came to ask to have their property rezoned from RA to business. That's the question. And then the staff report recommending that we have an interim use permit, that will clarify some of the details that may have to go into this. But we did, as far as complaints in that there, yeah, there might have been, I don't know. There was complaints. Okay, I do know, but that shouldn't be a factor. The resident came in trying to resolve the issue. if it's the best way to resolve this is to zone it business, then future activity can be monitored through our ordinances that we currently have on the books, as far as interim use and whatever the business activity is. As far as vehicles and what's stored on it, that can be addressed during the interim use permit, because that will be another public hearing in order to establish that. I think we followed procedure up to this point as far as notifying the public, notifying the neighbors of what the request was for. What I hear some different comments from different board members. The fact that you can't have a tractor on RA property, to me, that's ridiculous, but that's not the issue tonight. The issue is rezoning this property. They requested rezoning. It would make the best resolution to the current problem, and it is consistent with what planning and zoning has proposed for future zoning in this area. I think that that's the question that should be in front of the board and not these other details that are coming up of why and how and what. There was information in the office and the zoning administrator had it. Planning and zoning got it as far as the rationale behind the rezoning request. I think that should be the main focus of what the board should be working on, not trying to amend ordinances and change things around. The fact that there's a residence on business property, my residence been on business property for 40 years, 50 years. It wasn't an issue, and that can change. Eventually, more than likely, the house, the residence will probably be torn down. That whole corner could become more of a business area or business developed. And that is consistent with what planning and zoning has been looking at for quite a few years. And I guess in order to get something going on it, I would just recommend the board focus on the fact of the rezoning, not all the other details that you're bringing up.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Thank you. And to be clear, that's where I'm going with this, is looking at our code. To me, like I said, you can say that doesn't reflect or is not relevant, but I think hearing it out loud doesn't make sense to people that under the RA, you can't. I mean, if you're going to do that to everybody that has heavy equipment, that doesn't make sense to me. So why would you not amend the RA to reflect that? That's all I'm saying. And in that, guys, now by doing this, we're furthering it down. And I understand people's real head-on approach to try and rezone everything ahead. That's on the role of the developers. That's on, like we said, that conversation for the property owners to be having something and saying, I want to do this. By doing this now, it opens it up to the 12 things and other things just coming in because it's already zoned that. That should be the work of a buyer and the seller. Like I said, because to be honest, it could be fixed if RA allowed for an interim use for outdoor storage. If you were RA with 80 acres, why would you not have that as an option? So now you're gonna tell the next person they have to change it to a B? And what if that's in the middle of two other houses and doesn't really go with the look of the neighborhood? So, like I said, the code itself should be aligned with what it is. And it's currently not because it doesn't allow that interim use under an RA.
With the request. So this resident came in and just made the request, whether there was complaints or not, to rezone his RA to business. And if I remember right in the meeting, is once it's defined as business, it can be used for outdoor equipment storage. It could be used for building a quick trip, right? I mean, it's pretty much open to any business use that they want. Obviously, they'd have to pull permits and stuff, but business is business as we've got it defined. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You
So
know, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Mike.
I'm looking at the town code map amendment rezoning application. Describe the reason, justify the amendment. Rezoning to enable us to continue current business operations. Which means they cannot continue unless they get this passed. So basically, he has to do it or he can't continue his business. That I'm just going to make the statement. It's out there. He brought it in. I'll make a motion. We approve it because he put it in there, but I'm not happy with the way that I think he's being forced to do it just so he can keep the business operation going.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I still don't think it's right. I think he's being forced to do this.
And again, the
It's
township
here.
should be looking at how to fix things because it doesn't align. I can't support that. I think it should be reviewed and worked with the applicant by all means. Our code should be our code. But we keep going against this thing that hasn't been touched in forever. And it doesn't make sense to me why we keep just beating our heads against the wall and coming around with changing to change to change. I get this whole get things more business. That's not the look of Linwood in terms of making it easy for exactly what you said, a liquor store just to come in, because at the end of the day, we could rezone this and it does. If it's irrelevant whose tractors they are or not, they cannot be there tomorrow. And then it's something else. And that to me should be the work of the owner and the end use of it.
Well, I agree with you, Andy. I agree with you, Mike. I think if Mr. Broadbent had come in my opinion, if he'd come in and said, wait a second, I'm being forced to rezone to business and I want the board's opinion, I think the discussion would probably go a different direction. But that's not what's before the board. What's before the board is a resident that came in and wants to rezone from RA to business. So I
And
think,
unfortunately, the way I look at this, unfortunately, if we don't do it, then of course, they're going to keep sending him letters. And then I don't know if there's fines down the road if he doesn't comply or if he has to stop the business he's got set up there. So he has to shut that down. If the only way to make sure that this doesn't keep happening and he doesn't keep getting these letters and stuff, the only way we can stop it is if we deny it, then he's susceptible to get these letters and stuff keep coming in because he's not in compliance. The only way we can stop it is by zoning it business then, is my understanding looking at this and what I've heard.
yeah, the way it stands now, that's how I see it as well. Any other discussion?
I mean, if it was exactly that aspect that you just said, and we tabled it and had those conversations and tried to figure out through communication and working on the zoning code, to me, that's where we need to be, because you're not this fixation of some that we have to get as much business out there as possible. Again, it can happen under the right pretense and when it's right, but you're just opening up we're not exactly that. We're not working with the people. And it doesn't allow that by our code. So I'd much rather put the effort into changing the code to make it work, because that's a lot of people that are impacted by this. Because has everybody got to change to a B? And are we going to change everyone to a B?
Well, we'll put the motion to a vote. If it fails, then, then the next motion would be to table it and it would give you some working time for a couple of weeks to try to get that figured out. Rory, if you want, you can come up to the mic, please.
How this all got started, and I mean, it backs up a few years, everybody knows. So Buck, he's like, well, we can store stuff there and everything. And I come walking into this building and I talked to the building inspector at that time and I said, what can we do out there for storing stuff? I mean, he told me, he says, just do it. And then if there's a problem, we'll change it and we'll put in an interim use permit or something. That's what I was told. I walked out of this building. Now this is what, 5 years ago probably, or when we started it. So I walked out of the building, said, okay, Buck, we're okay. You know what I mean? So we did it. Then time goes on, and all of a sudden the neighbor complains. We get a letter saying, you can no longer have this business there. You have 30 days to get all this out of here and stuff. So that is how we ended up here. He didn't just walk in for something to do that. We were forced to do that, which is, I'm okay, you know, Buck's okay, luckily. And we thought that was the road we would go down. So that's what we did. So there's only another option that I see would be you leave it RA and put in an interim use permit on it. Why can't you have something like that then? Why do you have to switch it to business and then put an interim use on top of that? So that's kind of my suggestion of that, but I mean, I understand the interim use, there'll be some, you know, we'll have to do some blocking and things like that and, you know, I mean, but that's all it is, you know, and instead of changing it, if you don't want to change it to business and do that, but he's forced to do it. I mean, he owns a lot of land and we're pretty much forced to do it. By luck, he's open to doing it. And it's cost him a lot of money to get to this point. He had to, you know, at first we started out, they said we didn't have 10 acres. Well, it comes out you don't need 10 acres. Well, he already started that process through the surveying and that cost him money to do. And then we find out that it didn't matter if it wasn't 10 acres. So I think there's a lot going on with this. And I think that there is a way to resolve it, but I don't know if that's an option. You know what I mean? If you can just do leave it RA and then you just put an interim use permit in there, I don't know what the difference would be, you know? So, I mean, what's the difference if it's business and you still have to get an interim use permit? You can shut it down at any time typically, right? I mean, that's when it switches hands or whatever. So that's just my thought on it. And so you got a little bit of the history of it.
Yeah, thank you, Rory. And I think that's what I heard Mike and Andy talking about is that, you know, is there a possibility of doing an interim use on the existing?
Not with.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mike,
rescind my motion.
you rescind your motion?
Yes, sir.
Who seconded that, Pam?
I did.
You did. Would you rescind your second?
Yes.
Carol rescinded her second. Motion's been rescinded.
Make a motion, we table this until the next meeting and look at an interim use permit for this property.
Okay, so we got a motion on the table first. Is there a second for it?
I'll second for discussion. There's
Okay, Andy seconded
other
for
things we have to do.
All right. Pam, you want to speak?
To answer your question, the way our code is written right now, he would not be allowed an interim use permit for that use in RA.
Correct.
So just so you have that information before you go vote on this, thinking you can just go that path, that would not be allowed the way our code's written.
Okay. Any other discussion?
So it'd be, that's where I was at the beginning, that district should match being able to do. And that's where, in working with P and Z, looking at some of these things that are permitted in business as conditional uses or interim uses, because right now interim uses for a B is all interim uses in a general business district as listed in this section must comply with the provisions of Article 2, Divisions 4 through 6. It doesn't list them, but Susan, would that be everything under a conditional could be used as an interim?
I don't have our code in front of me. I just have a portion that I printed that was specific to this case. So I'll have to get back to you on that.
And I think that's just where you can get to where we're reviewing our code. And that's what I said back at Chicken Gate was, how often are we looking at it, or are we just looking at it when it comes up to be an issue? Because in looking at this, to see that certain items, just why wouldn't you be allowed to do that here? Why do you have all these options of this under this district, but not this one? And that might be true to some form and degree, but in this case, this doesn't seem to fit with it.
Yeah, Carol?
I just have a question of the board. We have code. And it's been our policy to follow our code. It is what we've told Susan to do. It's what Pam does. They can't read your minds. They don't know what you want. And then they do the, planning and zoning. And the office staff do the best job they can do. And then they come here and they find out everything they've done is wrong. According to but who's gonna fix this? Andy, you always say, this is wrong, but do you come with a solution?
I don't say it's wrong. I've asked that multiple times, like, do we review? Like at P and Z, I mean, we canceled the meeting this year. Are we taking time to review our ordinances? Like I said, it's 20 years old.
But even if they review the ordinances, they can't read your mind. They can't read your mind. They think maybe they think the ordinances are just fine.
And I hear them and I support every aspect of them putting the work in, but I was at a meeting that we spent 3 hours and there was still a difference between P and Z and staff because it was accessory structures. And accessory structures are only a certain square feet. But P and Z, when they wrote the code, their intent was accessory structures from how it was explained. So I'm all for working and going towards something, but again, it's when something comes up, that's a force me to look at it. I get that aspect, but at some point, ordinance review, when it's 20 years old, it's probably not how we're living here anymore in Linwood. So I don't think it's about reading minds. I don't think they're wrong. They are doing what our code says.
Right.
I'm saying I don't agree with our code that you'd have an 80-acre or a 10-acre tract of RA that you've got stuff on and it doesn't, and you have to do this to make it work. Well, why wouldn't we make an interim use within this work within that? That's all.
Joe?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chairman. I differ with what Andy's saying, say this is a 20-year-old code. Tom Searing and I went through it with Municode, trying to get it as current and as good as we could. The clerk and other people worked on updating the code. It's not perfect. It never will be perfect. But the fact that you don't want to rezone something business, it goes against all of the recommendations that planning and zoning has gotten from Anoka County, from the Met Council, advisory boards, that they say we should look forward, be proactive, not reactive. Andy said it's up to the developer and a property owner. That's reactive. When they throw something on a plate, you're going to do it or not. Proactive is setting up a stage of organized development. That is the duties of planning and zoning, which this board has done. And believe me, I'm not happy with the board because you seem to kick back anything that planning and zoning brings up and bring up more discussion. There's a public hearing. Come to the public hearing and voice your opinion there. Now you kind of switch everything around that planning and zoning has worked on. And it didn't happen overnight. We didn't just react from something. We reacted to a request that came on our plate. And I guess I'm getting frustrated with the fact of the zoning map. We went through that how many times in the last 5 years? I think we had it pretty good, but we have been asked to recommend where future business zoning could be. Now, one of the areas that was designated as such, you're saying, no, that is RA, leave it RA and have an interim use permit. That's not being proactive. That's just, it doesn't make sense. If you're not going to look at, 10 years down the road or whatever, even the Met Councils, there's a 2050 plan out there that we've been asked to look at. We're asked to have a representative from them to come out to show us and help us develop a future plan. But if we have a future plan and the board, and again, your board, you're going to change in 5 years. Most of you won't even be here. And then we go on personal opinion versus procedure and stuff to where we can organize something to keep a future of Linwood going. It's just very frustrating. And believe me, I've been involved with this township a long time, and planning and zoning, it's just like you're saying, what the hell was y'all? And I'm not appreciative of your attitude right now. I mean, a resident came in for a reasonable request to resolve a local situation. To say that our ordinances are out of line, I don't deny that. They're never perfect and there'll always be discrepancies on it. But the zoning administrator worked on it, planning and zoning worked on it, and now you're all individually scrutinizing it. And it's like, I mean, look at the background. The background's been out there. Planning or town board could have looked at the planning and zoning agenda and seen this stuff. It's all out there on the website. So I guess to come at a meeting like this and reverse the stuff that we have tried to logically put together is very, very frustrating. And I hope you think about things that either, I don't want to see the planning and zoning go away. I don't think legally you can do that. But it's getting to the point of why bother if you guys kick it to the curb anyhow?
So, thank you, Joe. So quick questions. Pam, did you have something that you wanted to say? Okay. So I have a question, because I don't want to see this come back in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and then we end up going through the process of approving it anyway and making these people wait. So if this motion passes and we table it, what do we expect to change between now and in 2 weeks or now and in 4 weeks? Is the code gonna change to where all of a sudden we can do an interim use for on RA, or are we gonna end up back here having the same conversation? Because if we are, we might as well move forward now instead of in 2 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and that's a month out process as it is, because you'd have the public hearing and everything with the,
Several months.
yeah, with
Yeah.
the zoning and everything. But again, I'm hearing what happened was the scenario you did. 5 years ago, the township was engaged and they were given information, wanting to work and do what exactly that, do an interim on this. I mean, I'm not disputing the work you're putting in, Joe. It's just somehow looking forward at everything globally like we did there with that. When we looked at going through the zoning map, it's gonna take conversations. It's gonna take people working together.
So it sounds like we're looking at months before there'd be an answer back to these people on whether there's a different process that they can go through other than zoning from RA to business. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, and I think at this point, yes, because you wouldn't get onto the October planning and zoning meeting. You're into November by the time you get on that agenda. The other thing is, I would really caution the board, don't just throw this at planning and zoning and say, go fix it. What is your solution? The board had better make a decision. And business is, unfortunately, the whole concept of working on business went to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning said, well, you know, we can identify some properties, but how do we want to do this? It came to the board and the board said, let's just wait till it comes to us. The board showed no interest in working on the code or even planning for the future. So again, if the board's going to do this, you better have some really clear, and that's going to take time. That's going to take a fair amount of time for the board to work on their vision.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have a tough time voting to
Wait.
make these people wait to move on with their lives. Andy, what do you got? Let's move through
Just
this.
talk to the process of just maybe in order for clarity, why wouldn't it be on the October agenda? What takes to get on that?
Well, proposed changes for a public hearing. It has to be posted in the newspaper. I have to have it to the newspaper by Thursday.
So that would be, so I get that it wouldn't be the public hearing at the next one, but that's why I'm making sure that it could be discussed at the next one.
I
Oh, yes,
believe
it could be
the question-
discussed.
The question was, could it be approved and move forward?
Mhm.
No. So, but then to say it's several months is not necessarily the case either, but said, I get it, but it seems again that the scenario you proposed, to have the conversation, do the stuff, happened.
Mhm.
And misinformed.
Rory, one more time, and then we're gonna move on here.
Throw you guys back. I know she's done a ton of work, but I just wanted you guys to know the history of how it became. And Joe is 100% correct that we all know that that corridor there is probably the best commercial there ever will be in Linwood Township. So, I mean, I don't think Buck has a problem with switching it to that. But I think down the road, you got to really look at it because, well, there's other property that is along that corridor. I mean, I agree with Andy, but I don't agree with, yeah, if there's an 80 acres back there, how can you make that person go switch it to business
Mhm.
and it's not going to benefit at all? I mean, the only plus to this one is it is on the corridor right there where we know it probably will be, but that's my, take on it. I mean, Buck came in, he's already started the process of it. And if that's how it's gonna end up anyways, then it probably makes sense to do it that way. But I think down the road, we want to look at what we're doing because exactly that the other guy that owns 80 that isn't on that road, it might not make sense to be, commercial.
But he doesn't have the option then.
Uh,
He doesn't have the option then because
Right.
he doesn't have
And
the
it
interim
wouldn't-
use
it
option.
Wouldn't do no good, you know what I mean, to make a business back there or something. So I just wanted to make that clear. If you vote to put it, through, then that's fine. If it waits, but it's gonna be probably the same end result anyways.
That's what I'm concerned with. Yep. All right, thanks, Rory. All right, there is a motion on the table right now to table this for 2 weeks. All right, we'll put it to a vote. All right, Pam, roll call.
Chairman.
Supervisor,
Oh,
Supervisor
no,
Parker?
Excuse me 1 second. Mike, did you have something to add?
I know where this is gonna go, so I'm gonna rescind my motion. Andy, will you rescind your second?
Certainly, sir.
All right,
I'll
that
make a-
motion has been rescinded.
I'll make a motion that we approve the, whatever we're working on nowadays. We approve the change to business for this piece of property.
All right, there's been a motion. There's a second.
I'll second it.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Pam, could you do the roll call?
Supervisor Parker?
Aye.
Supervisor Searing?
Aye.
Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, that was a long number 2. Let's move forward. We got 2024 crack ceiling proposals. And so we have received 2 bid proposals. So I'll open them up here. All right. This proposal is from Seal Tech. Let's see, and so this will be the crack fill and Polyflex. Their total contract base proposal is $120,900. And that's for the streets that we had previously passed out to the board. All right. That was Seal Tech for $120,900. Let's see, the next bid is from Allied Blacktop out of Maple Grove. Oh, these are sealed good. All right, and this bid proposal is for $199,810.75. So again, Allied Blacktop Company for $199,810.75. So just to remind everybody that our annual crack ceiling budget is $50,000.
And what are those?
$120,900 and $199,810.75. So a little bit higher than what we anticipated.
So it's probably going back to the drawing board.
So I think we're gonna go back to the drawing board on this. We'll have to relook at the road list. Oh, yes, Todd, come on up. Sorry.
Scott, I represent Seal Tech. I like how you broke it down road per road.
Mhm.
And if your budget's 50,000, I would prioritize your roads and I would quickly find $50,000 worth of work if you want it done this year. Because if you keep pushing it off, our season's only about, weeks left. So,
Yeah.
appreciate the opportunity to bid with you and stuff. And like when we went out last year, you prioritize your roads, you get on a program, You know, you could do 50,000 every year for the next 5 years and you'll be back in your circle and starting at road one again.
Sure,
That's my recommendation.
sure. All right. Thanks, Todd. I appreciate it. Pam, did you have something?
So I think what's different with this year's contract is that we put it out that they actually bid per road going down it. So, and also included in there is that let me find the exact words, but they're to be priced individually. And then the board has the authority to scale it down to what the roads they can fit into their budget. So the bidders were told that when they did that it isn't necessarily for the entire job, but it is done by roads and it could get scaled back depending on where the township's budget lies. And I believe Supervisor Olson, you had noted that most likely the roads are in order
Yes.
of
Priority.
priority, thank you. And so again, that would be an option for the board to do some calculations based on the bids that you received to see what roads you can possibly do. And again, that was the purpose for doing those road by road.
Yeah, and so like Pam said, the bid has a column where each road is priced out individually, so we can add through those. Yeah, we can add them up and figure out how many roads we can get with each one. So moving forward, are we gonna have to do that and then bring us back in 2 weeks so that we have a specific number of roads and a price?
What I think you would want to do is figure out which roads fit within your budget, or if you want to increase your budget to get more done this year, figure out what roads they are, and then offer it back to the lowest bidder and see if they still would take the job for that. Because again, they bid it out thinking they would do all the roads, or maybe they weren't
Right.
thinking that, but and see if they would still sign a contract with us for the roads that fit within your budget.
Okay. Well, we can't make a motion to approve either bid because of the total on it. But can we move to approve one contractor based on the lowest bid of the whole thing, or do we have to break it down again and go back? That's
Gonna be over that 25.
Yeah.
right. That's why I said if we're gonna do 50,000.
50, you're still at a sealed bid process.
Right, I mean, the process was right
Right.
for this.
So we'll have to go back then and redefine this based on the numbers that we're getting here, cut back on the number of roads. And then we're gonna have to ask for, we can just ask for those two to rebid, right?
As, yes, you would
Rather
go
than
back
going out
to
for the
each
whole
of
full
those,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
You would go back, you can accept the lowest bid and then go to that lowest bidder and see if you back it down to $50,000 with these roads, would they accept that? If they don't accept it, you can go to the second one and see if they would then accept that,
Okay,
the modified. Again, that's what's different about this year's contract, is that it gave the board the authority to stay within your budget.
sure. Okay. So we can make a motion, just to make sure I'm clear. So we can make a motion, there's about a $80,000 difference in the two bids that are apples to apples, with the same number of roads. So being that there's, about a 40% difference in cost, then we go ahead and make a motion to accept the bid from Seal Tech pending negotiating out what roads.
What if we rejected these bids and then
Start from scratch.
just we'll do $49,500 worth of roads, and then we can direct negotiate, correct?
No,
At what number do we go back to sealed?
over 25,000. Well,
$24,999
$24,000? So it's Okay, it's 25K difference.
The only reason I'm asking the question is because if we can accept the lowest bid pending negotiating down the number of roads, like you said, we did that for a reason. Pick that top $50,000 worth of roads. Then we can get going on a contract and get them out there instead of waiting 2 more weeks and we're 2 weeks closer to snow.
Yeah. I'm not a professional, but if you don't have it down
Right.
real quick here, don't do it because it doesn't have time to set.
He'll say
Not a
the same thing.
professional.
Yeah, you said it had to be done by October 1st. So
Yeah.
being a month out, material wise, scheduling wise, you know, I would recommend you pick 50,000 worth of roads and we would, I trust Dustin would accept that. You know, I know that was a big number. That's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or 200,000.
Well, if the bids were closer, then I would have probably gone about this different, but like I said, there's a 40% delta in them, so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd make a motion that we, move into a contract with Seal Tech. Not to exceed $50,000 based on the number of roads that we can have them do in this list of priorities. And keep it below the $50,000.
I'll second that motion.
Was that confusing, Pam?
No, I don't know how you cannot take the lowest bid. You would, there would.
Well,
have
it
to
is the
not
lowest
be,
bid. It's the lowest bid contractor.
Not from the numbers. Seal Tech is lower?
Yeah.
Oh geez, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Ignore me.
Yeah, they were, Seal Tech was $80,000 under
Right.
the other bid. So then would that motion make sense then?
Does make sense.
And I second it.
Okay, and Carol seconded. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Pam, could you do roll?
Supervisor Olson,
Aye.
Supervisor Searing,
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke.
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Parker.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. So,
Mr. Vice Chair,
yes,
can we step back on that ordinance to pass that, that deal with that business property? Do we need to pass easy for me to say. Do we need to pass the ordinance number 217 and have it as passing that ordinance? Versus what we just put out for that we just approved the application? I see there's an ordinance here,
question, Mike.
ordinance number 217. I believe we have to take a vote on ordinance 217 as the amendment to chapter 30. So I believe we need to have a motion to pass ordinance 217.
good question. Yeah,
It would be cleaner. The board actually did approve to change the business, which is what the ordinance is. It would be cleaner for future reference to refer to it as the ordinance. But
Make a
in
motion to
essence,
pass
that's what you
ordinance number
did.
217.
all right, second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Who seconded?
I did.
Did we get all the way through the other one?
Yes.
He did. I think that's what
Yeah.
when he started. Okay.
Supervisor Parker,
Aye.
Supervisor Olson,
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing,
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Okay, motion
Sorry,
passes.
Andy, I just didn't want to get this before I forgot that I saw this in here.
Oh, good catch, Mike. All right, we'll move on to number 4. Let's get into some exciting stuff. Parks, Bob?
Okay, Dot Forborg is interested in filling the empty position at the Park and Rec Board. She came to our meeting last night. She is a phenomenal person, been in the township since 91. And the Park Board Committee would be ecstatic to have her. So I would like to make a motion to approve Dot Forborg
Motion's been made.
for Park Board, the empty Park Board opening.
All right,
Of
motion's
course,
been made.
pending a background check, which I told her she has to get a hold of you, so.
Your second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. And when you catch up,
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke.
Aye.
Supervisor Parker,
Aye.
Supervisor Searing,
Aye.
Supervisor Olson.
All right, well code.
Did she call you today? Yep. She didn't call you today?
I mean, no.
Okay, then it'll be right away tomorrow. The well coat, we got a quote from McCullough last year to fix the issue with the well. We kind of bubble gummed it together to get through last year. I think the bid last year was 7,000. This year it got moved up to 8,000. After discussing with our maintenance team, we kind of made the decision, let's move anything critical into a warm building. So I got another proposal to move the stuff in the cold building into the warm building. So we have everything in one spot and we don't really risk it, knock on wood, of freezing. And that's gonna entitle tapping into that irrigation line and pretty much getting it out of the cold building. So this $9,000 bid does that. The only thing it does not do, excuse me, in which I have to get help from the fire department is, I need to locate the heating lines in that floor because they have to cut a hole in the floor to do a boring up into that. And Chief, I'm gonna talk to one of your guys about getting that thermal imaging where we turn the boiler on, then they can shoot and we can find out exactly where our lines are. But that'll happen. He wants to do it the next week, but it's not gonna happen this week, so. So that's what that is, just to get everything. It was approved last year. Up to $10,000. So technically, it's already been approved, but I just want to bring it back this year and get that approved so I can get that done this year. So I'd like to make a motion to hire McCullough for $9,000 to get the irrigation and the well into the new recycle park building.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? Any second?
I'll second.
Right, motion's made and seconded. Discussion?
So how's the funding gonna come out for this? Is this coming all out of parks or where's this money's coming from?
Out of parks. Are you volunteering to pay for some of it?
Not in your least.
It's awfully nice, yeah. Okay.
We're out of parks.
I don't know where it is gonna come out of parks. We'll ask you.
So on the August 8th meeting with the projected balances and stuff, Parks is projected to come in under balance, roughly 20,000. They have 2,100 in their non-building repairs, 1,000 in capital outlay, 5,000 in landscaping materials that wasn't used, and 1,100 in other rentals, which is totaling up to $9,200 that I didn't foresee being used in this. This is $9,000. So, I mean, it's there.
Any other discussion?
So we can use them out of.
It'll come out of one line item, but there's other line items that are not being used that are gonna be able to carry that $9,000.
Okay, so we can carry across line item.
All right, any other discussion?
Just saying the line items that aren't being used are gonna counteract it.
No, I tell you, I got it.
All right, hearing nothing. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke.
Aye.
Supervisor Olson.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing.
Aye.
Supervisor Parker.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you. One more, Kaylee Electric. We got some electric J boxes up that are about 8 feet up. I think there's 4 of them. We're gonna drop them down and put power and USB plugs in them for kids charging their phones and all that happy stuff. We're gonna have a volunteer do it, but we can't have volunteers do that. So I called Kaylee Electric. They came in at $820 to put in these four locations with GFCI protection. So I'd like to make a motion to spend $820 of park dedication money to add electric to the warming house.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Yeah.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke.
Aye.
Supervisor Parker.
Aye.
Supervisor Olson.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing.
Aye.
Thank you. After we just took all that money out of parks, do we still have 5,000 for landscaping?
Not if you're gonna absorb it into, well, I mean, I'd have to take a deeper look into it. But
Okay, because they wanted to do mulch. Alquist? They wanted to do mulch in Alquist, and I guess the question is if they're gonna have enough money to do that. So I guess we'll just ask you to bring it back in 2 weeks, I guess, and we'll find out if we can do mulch, because they also want to do gravel in this ball field.
Get some
Back
quotes,
here.
please.
I'll get the quotes. I'll get the quotes. You tell me if I have the money.
Yep.
Yeah, they want to do 95 yards of mulch at Alquist. They want to do the closest ball field out back. They want to do that lime, but again, I'll get you the price tomorrow and you can tell us if we have the money. They did bring up one issue, and I know our maintenance team is strapped. I know they're busy. I know it's a one-man gang. He's doing a phenomenal job, because I drove around these parks all weekend long and I was pleasantly surprised on how these parks look. Thank you to your maintenance team for that. One thing that got brought up last night is the amount of trees that tipped over in Givens Park. There is a lot of trees tipped over. I don't know if it's a safety issue or not. We left late last night. I did not get over there, but maybe Jack can just run by Givens and see what's going on with that. The park board would like to have a skating party, January 24th, kind of a skating party, open house. Look at our new warming shack. The 24th would be their preferred date. It's a Friday. If that doesn't work, who knows, we get 3 feet of snow or it's 75 degrees, they would move it to February 1. Is that February 1 or the 31st? 31st. But they want to do that. So that's good. We passed our demo permit. That was approved, our demo permit. But we still have to figure out what we're gonna do for kind of the final of the area, and the board. The committee talked last night that we're gonna move that. We want to move the pleasure rink towards the hockey rink more, make it a little bit bigger, but then it was brought up, do we want to put fence to protect people skating in the pleasure rink from the hockey rink, just because kids shoot pucks and that, but. So I'm gonna talk to Recycle, see what they got for fencing. We'll get a plan for that. It's not supposed to get cold for 2 weeks, so I got a little bit of time on that. Lights, park board, mulch. What am I forgetting, Sarah? Grant writer. Grant writer, what is the protocol on grant writer? The park board would love to have her Zoom into a meeting, call into a meeting. Is that protocol or is that totally against on how we do because I know I brought it up to them that the plan is come up with a bid. If we want to do lights across the street, it's $500,000. Get it to her, see if she can hunt down the grants. Is that the way we do it, or can the park board have our grant writer at one of their meetings and kind of help them out, give them advice, say it's easy to go for this, it's hard to go for that, blah, blah, blah. We're kind of in the dark at the park board. So that's pretty much our question, isn't it?
Am, are you interfacing with the grant writer or?
Yeah, did the list of grants available is that not, they want something more than what's available out there?
So that list, that was like the DNR grant. There was like 4 grants on there or something. Is that, well, that's kind of our question. So is that the thought of the board that if they come up with lights, they bring that to the board and the board decides, yep, let's send their $400,000 bid for new lights for the ball fields across the street. Let's send that to the grant writer. Is that the way we should be doing this? Or do we call the grant writer and invite her to a meeting, get her opinion on stuff like that?
Talk to her. Yeah, get her there.
Well, that's my question. Or is the board against that, or isn't that proper protocol? That's the question from the park board.
I think we use a grant writer as much as we can, but Pam's the one that's worked with her on all the communications. So I would say work through Pam.
Generally, I mean, if you tell her what you're looking for, she will tell you if there's grants out there for it. I mean, I guess if the parks wants to hire her to come in, I mean, you'd have to pay for her
No, is she local?
to come. No,
She's not local, so it'd be a Zoom?
no. But I mean, we've not had committees
We've never
meeting.
really had a grant writer either. So we're all.
No,
kinda
but
new
even
at
when,
this.
when there's a grant, that concept comes to the board says yes. So-and-so can go out and look for a grant, for grant money.
Yeah, communication. We see it come time and
Can
time
come up.
again. And if people want to talk and figure stuff out, because just seeing things, the two that came through on that one, that's the first draft, right? And maybe that isn't, but through hearing what Parks is looking for or what they want, that's where a conversation or ideas happen. Yeah, there's a cost. Let Parks know what the cost is. Have the conversation.
Sarah, go ahead.
Right, yeah, we just want to be able to have one meeting, an open dialogue with her to be able to go over. This is kind of our broad picture of everything in the parks. I mean, there are certain things, yes, that we know that we want to get done. There's a couple grants like the DNR grant. Yes, that's great. We would love to go for that. That's not until February that opens. A couple of the other grants, I don't think we'd qualify for it. I think like the Twin City one for the ball fields. We want to do those ball fields, but those aren't being used for actual, games and stuff. So that doesn't qualify. We would just like to speak with her and say, are there grants out there that you might come across that you may say, hey, this might be great for you guys. Is there anything in your parks, or this was on your list, you want to take a look at it? Or if there's grants that don't come up very often, that she could let us know, or these grants come up constantly if this is what you guys are looking for. And we know that there's a cost. We talked about it last night and we are willing to pay that fee for having her Zoom in for a meeting. But kind of going back and forth, it could be months before we say, hey, we want to do this with our parks. We let whoever know the information. They tell the grant writer, comes back 2 weeks later, a month later. We only meet once a month for parks. We discuss it, then we have to go and do everything. I feel like it would just take months and months.
Welcome to government.
Yes, exactly. So it would just be nice for us to be able to meet her too and just give her our thoughts and ideas of what we'd like to do. I mean, I know it's new for us to have a grant writer, as far as I know, so it'd be nice to just know who she is and how we can go back and forth and just be able to figure out what can we do? Because, I mean, we can chase quotes all day long, but there might be stuff where like, oh my gosh, that would be great to be able to add to the park that we never even thought of, or doing grants on top of grants type of thing. So that was what our thought. We'd really like to meet with her to be able to go over how the process works and be able to do all of that.
It's their thought.
So we meet with the grant writer once a month virtually.
Oh, you do?
Is it possible to have someone from the Parks Committee in on that meeting or?
Yeah, I wasn't aware that is a setup thing, but yeah, I mean,
There hasn't been many meetings because there's no grants opening right now, but
Sure.
October they do.
When is your next scheduled?
The third Tuesday at
1:30.
1:30.
That work?
It's virtual.
Okay.
but okay. If that doesn't work for any of us on the park board, can we set up a separate one for her to zoom in on our next park board meeting at the end of October? I don't know how to go about getting that approved or saying we can do that.
It keeps coming back to what is a board and what is not, because at the end of the day, it's
I make a
a few
motion to
hundred
allow
bucks. And if you're allowed to spend a few $100 with your committee, why wouldn't you?
I make a motion to allow the park board to have the grant writer zoom into a next park board meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
It's probably not gonna I mean, if she's $150 an hour and we talk for 15 minutes, maybe maybe she's the limit that here's my minimum charge. And I
Right.
guess we could find that out by asking Pam or Alyssa, but.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke.
Aye.
Supervisor Olson.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing.
I,
Supervisor Parker. Supervisor Parker.
Aye.
There you are. Got it, Mike. All right, motion passes.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for parks. I know they did talk a little bit about the Family Fun Day. The parks loved doing the parade And the beauty of the last two people to join the park board are parade committee people. So they're already talking about next year's parade, how they're gonna do it different, but I was not in town, but I thank the park board for getting into the parade like they did, so. They did great.
Thank you, Bob.
Anything else, Sarah? Nope. Nothing good. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to old business. Number 5, resolution 2024-15, which is a proposed final levy. Everybody should have that in your packet.
So
So
the
this
reason-
actually, oh, sorry,
Sorry.
go ahead.
So the reason it's not in the consent agenda is because the board can make a decision that this is your final levy, or it can just be proposed. I wrote resolutions both ways. If it's proposed, that means you've got until December, I wouldn't push it past December 1st, but until December 15th to let the county know what your levy is going to be. The board has the authority to change the levy from what the people said if you want to reduce it. You can't go up, but the board could choose to reduce the levy lower than what the people voted on. So traditionally, well, since I've been here, in September, we usually just call it the final levy, that we're not going to come back, have another annual meeting, or another public meeting with the public to discuss raising the levy, which was what it would take to raise the levy. So what you have in front of you is for the final levy. But there is also the option if you want to wait and decide closer to December if you want to lower the levy for 25.
Thoughts?
It wouldn't take, so just to be clear, because you said another meeting, that's only if we're gonna change anything. Could it stay proposed and then in December just approve?
You would need to certify a proposed levy now.
Nope.
And then come back in December and do another levy for final.
Correct. Which none of those require any extra meetings with the public or anything if we're not changing anything.
Right.
So I'd assume go with the proposed only in the sense that as we get into our fall budgeting and something's changing and we need to make the taxpayers aware, it gives us that option.
I like that too, Andy. All right. And before anybody makes a motion, just a quick, is it 2024-16 or 15? The agenda says 15, the resolution says 16.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 15 because
15, okay.
another resolution dropped off.
I just wanted to make sure the motion was correct.
But you don't want to finalize the resolution if you're doing the final levy. Unless you're doing the final levy, am I correct?
We always do the final in September, but we can do it in December. We'll put it on, depending on what the board votes.
Yeah, so just for clarification, what I just changed, if with the motion, just change that wording and it would be 24-15. You're saying the two versions you made, or did you make another, is there a 17? I guess which version is the proposed version?
It's proposing that you accept the final levy.
Correct.
I printed one for the chair, vice chair to sign that is for a proposed levy.
Okay, yep. And just to be clear, it's the same resolution number for either
would be.
copy.
It would be.
Okay,
Yes, gotcha.
so yeah, I would make a motion to accept resolution 24-15, a resolution proposing the final levy for 2025.
I'll second it.
Great, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Could you please do roll?
Supervisor Ledke,
Aye.
Supervisor Parker,
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Olson,
Aye.
Supervisor Searing.
I,
Right. Moving on to number 6. Well, motion passed, by the way. Moving on to number 6, HR consultant. So a couple things on the update on that one. The representative from JR Business Solutions was on vacation for the last week and a half or so. I left a message. She doesn't come back into town until tomorrow fact, I got a hold of her late this afternoon. She sent me back a text message that she was boarding an airplane coming back. So I was not able to get all your questions answered, but she did say that as far as like her educational background and stuff, that she's got a LinkedIn account and it's all on the LinkedIn account. So had I gotten a message a little earlier, I would have pulled that stuff for you.
Are we not gonna be able to interview her?
I mean, if we do, we're gonna have to do it at the next meeting in 2 weeks. That would be the only way that we could do it. I was hoping that she was gonna get back into town, but she didn't make it. I did look up Susan, the other person that you guys had mentioned. I did try to get a hold of her. She's a busy person. The one thing I did look at her bio, I was thinking that she was gonna be like an HR consultant level, and it looks like she's actually a full-fledged attorney. So if we did go with Susan, I don't believe that it's probably gonna be at $160 an hour, you know, being that she's an attorney. The other thing that I looked at was kind of her specialties, and nowhere in any of her bio did I see anything for HR. She's got memberships in organizations, defense lawyers, liability, land use, those kind of things. So employment litigation, I guess she's in there. So, but again, I could not reach her to get the information before this meeting. So that's kind of the update on it. I'm not sure if we're looking at moving forward with a quick final review from an HR perspective on the handbook. We probably would want to move sooner than later. And just as a reminder, this person, it's time and materials. So if we don't use her, we don't pay anything for that. So if we go 3 months without using her,
We're talking about JR.
we're talking about JR Business
But we
Solutions
don't
right now.
have my questions, I haven't been able to ask my questions. I have no idea. I mean, according to everything I saw, she doesn't have a degree in HR.
Yeah, like I said, I was trying to get the information before this. meeting.
So how can we approve her when we don't know if she has a degree? I mean, you fired me and I had 16 years. I just didn't have a degree. So why would you go out and hire somebody and, you know, with the same, I was free. The other thing about it is, we don't know how much, township experience she has or government experience, which to me is really important because as you and I have talked about, it's frustrating to realize how different government is than private or nonprofit.
Mhm.
And so it seems to me it would be important that we know that.
Yeah, like I said, that's my update. I tried to connect with both of them, and so the question is, do we want to move forward now or do we want to wait 2 more weeks? If the handbook isn't pressing, I guess that's an option for the board to think about.
Fine, wait.
All right, that was my update. So what I'll do is I'll try to get her scheduled to do a Zoom in 2 weeks. I'll also get the information from this other person, Susan, and bring that back to the board here in 2 weeks. All right. All right, so we'll move on to number 7, Martin Lake Dam repairs. So this one, we talked about this back a month or so ago. And I had provided to the board the work order from a metal fabricator in Ham Lake. This was so just some back history real quick is that with the high water levels in spring of 23, there was damage done to the carp trap and the dam, the fence and the gate that goes across the front of that protects it, keeps it safe so nobody can go over the dam. That was damaged and needs to be repaired. So the thought is that we can either repair it or we can repair it and make it safer at the same time by putting a catwalk across the front of it that folds up so nobody can climb on it if it's not being used, but maintenance can go unlock it and they can lower it down so they can actually walk on the catwalk to do maintenance and clean out the carp trap. Presently, it was one of our maintenance guys that would shimmy and straddle this gate out to the middle and then try to pinch it between his legs while he was sitting there trying to clean out the trap. So pretty dangerous. And now that whole gate mechanism is gone. So now there is no way to get out there to do maintenance. So again, we can either repair it, which I think the repair cost, yeah, I had it here, but so the repair cost was like about 4,000, something like that. To do the catwalk was going to be another 4,300. Was going to be the catwalk with the railing behind it for safety. So what I did was there was a couple questions, very good questions. So I talked to our civil engineer. They don't do this kind of work. So the company that they refer structural engineering stuff to, if they have to do something like that on their projects, is out of St. Cloud. He said, I can tell you right now, he said you can get a hold of them, but you're not going to get an answer for about 2 months. They're way behind right now. So that was going to be a dead end. I tried calling TKDA, which Craig Rhinelander worked, so I knew there was some connection there. I've called them 3 times. I've left a message and I still haven't gotten anything back from them. And in the meantime, I looked up the engineering company that actually engineered the carp traps, all of them, and the stam. And I was able to talk to an engineer there. He was very excited about it. He thought it was a great idea. So I asked him timing. He actually has a gap in October that he could do some design work. The problem is that the cost of the engineering, just a ballpark, was about $40,000 to do the engineering. After having a lot of discussion about it and kind of going back and forth on bids and all that kind of stuff, he agreed to lower his price to $25,000. So if that was the case, you're looking at $25,000 for engineering cost, and another, almost $6,000 to actually perform the work. So you're looking at over $30,000 to put a catwalk on the dam and repair it. So that's our options. That was, and liability is one thing. That was the last question. Really, there is no more liability in doing that than there is in what we have on the 85 overpass and Typo Creek, because we have walkways right there where the dam and the carp traps are. So the liability wouldn't be any different. So personally, I think in order to be able to have maintenance do maintenance work in a safe manner, I can't imagine that we're not going to do something to give them the best tools possible by putting that catwalk there. So that's my feelings on it. I realize that it's not an engineered thing, but I'm not sure that it necessarily needs to be. Thoughts?
I think we need to do something.
Somebody's got to sign their name on it. Cause then we're gonna expect our insurance company to insure when John Olson crawls out on that thing. That's my concern.
Yeah, and to me, the 2 kind of remaining options is we either repair it, and it's not going to be as good as it was before because we had to take that railing out, or we do it this way.
Where would we get the money from?
So as far as engineering costs,
Mhm.
oh, I'm not saying engineer it. That's,
Do we have a choice?
well, I think the board always has a choice, but yeah, I don't think we can afford $30-some thousand to put a catwalk across there. I think you're either looking at doing a catwalk without engineering, or you just repair it and do the best you can getting it back the way it was. We also,
That was bought with a grant, right? From an Oak County
There's-
Conservation?
there's
Tracy?
a $3,750 grant and then matching $700 from the Martin Lakers.
The whole project though was a big giant grant, if I do remember correctly. I'm just asking.
First one.
Because we talk about grant writing now. I mean, is that something we get and we bring it to our grant writer and say, can you get us a grant? Is this an opportunity to use that for a grant?
Any way we could get some money from, the Anoka County Conservation District?
Well, they're the ones that kind of ran with this, and brought us in because we own it. But they're the ones that acquired the grant, $3,750 grant last year, and then we didn't use it. We had issues with, some people that were gonna help us and then, ran into some issues. So this year we reapplied for it and we got it again. I was already warned that if we don't fulfill this, we're gonna have a tougher time getting grants in the future, because if Anoka's given us 2 grants back to back and then we don't use either one of them, we're probably gonna have a more difficult time getting them in the future. So again, I think we need to do something now. It's a matter of the
How
3
much is the
options.
grant For?
$3,750, and then the Martin Lakers did their 25% matching at $700. So that gets put towards the, with the catwalk, as we talked about before, with the catwalk, after the grant, after the Martin Lakers portion, it leaves about $1,900 for the township to pay for, if we do the catwalk. If we don't do the catwalk, there probably won't be any additional cost to the township. Thoughts, questions? Preferences? Mike, do you got a preference?
I
Fix
prefer
our
we just
catwalk.
I prefer we just go right ahead with it and have the catwalk put in. Do the repairs with the catwalk.
All right. No other opinions? I agree. I'm gonna make a motion that we move forward with the catwalk with the railing behind it. Adding that on to the existing, work order. That's a total of $1,900, for the township.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
So where are we gonna have the catwalk made?
So the Anoka County secured a fabrication shop, a metal fabricator in Ham Lake. And they've been out, they looked at the dam, they got all the measurements, they've got their little kind of a hand drawing work order. And they've already secured the materials actually. So it'll be done in Ham Lake. They were hoping to have it done in October here. Not sure, because we've pushed our schedule back a few weeks, or actually a month. So it's gonna be rescheduling them to come in. So, but we gotta have it done this year. So we're invoiced for the grant.
And we won't have any problems with our insurance company?
I did not, I mean, that's a great question. I did not check into insurance. I don't know if that was one that was brought up a month or so ago.
Who's the insurance supervisor?
We don't have-
We don't have one anymore? Ever since our insurance guy retired?
It's a good question. Pam, do you know, do we need to find out from the insurance if there's gonna be a problem?
Can check with them.
This be any different? I mean, I just don't see this, maybe I'm naive. I just don't see this much different than the carp traps that we have, where we've even taken the signs off because the attorney said there's no liability if somebody goes out there and then falls in.
I'm not worried about, I'm worried about our guys. Our
Oh,
maintenance people, not,
should have seen them teetering on the
I didn't want to.
railing.
I didn't want to see.
And a 6-foot drop over the edge into the,
If it's not a problem, then I think you should go for it.
all right. Yeah. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Pam, could you take roll, please?
Supervisor Olson,
Aye.
Supervisor Parker,
I,
Supervisor Ledke.
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing.
All right, motion passes. Public Works hiring process. And I think there was some questions about the way, who's gonna do the interviews and how is that gonna be conducted? Staff needs to know whether they have to do scheduling, to set these up or whatever. So do we have,
Is it still open? For how much longer?
Well,
Did
until
we
it's
not put a
filled,
date
our
on it?
ads run until October 4th.
Okay.
We've received 5 applications
Awesome. For,
for Public Works, the full-time Public Works. There's one kind of, he hasn't given me everything yet, for the park attendant.
Okay. So October 1, did you say?
October 4th.
Okay, so a week from this Friday.
Doesn't mean,
Doesn't
excuse
mean
me,
it
but
has
it
to go that
doesn't
long.
mean that you can't start interviewing before that, but that's the deadline for our advertised applications.
So
I'll help interview and I'll help you interview.
okay, so typically in the past, obviously the supervisor over that area would. I'm assuming that we have multiples at interview. So is that like,
Generally someone from HR.
okay, so the supervisor and then an HR person. And Mike is giving a thumbs up, so he must be coming back before the deadline.
I'll be back on Sunday.
Okay, so he'll be back before the deadline. Okay. And then, I know the last couple were small little things. We only had one or two people to interview, so I scheduled them. Is it better if the office schedules these? If we give timeframes of when we're available and then just let the office make contact? Okay,
However you want to do it. Yes, generally I would do it.
so the only, so I would like to do it that way and then, but I would like to make sure that we seem to always change our processes. And I think that's where it gets really confusing and frustrating.
Kind of going back to typical process.
Okay.
Was that the office would handle organizing the interviews. That way I also knew which ones were not getting interviewed
Okay,
because you'll get people, hey, then I can tell them right up front that you didn't get picked for an interview.
okay,
And also the scoring sheets and all that kind of stuff in determining who gets the interviews. So
okay. So this would fit with the way we've done it in the practice in the past. Okay. I'm perfectly fine with that. Anybody have any other comments? Okay. All right, and then we had added in 8A, which is the that claim number.
Can I ask one more question about the maintenance?
Sure.
Is the maintenance and the park they both go till that day in October?
yes.
What do I hear?
Mike, can you mute?
All right.
Okay,
All right, 8A, that claim number 82248 or whatever it was. Andy, did you want to speak to that? Or where are we at? Or who needs to speak to that?
So the last meeting I made the motion and then I followed up with the supervisor, with the attorney, but I guess Mr. Parker already had reached out to him, so I will
Okay.
turn to him.
Okay,
Mike, did you have any information?
Yes, I've got hold of our township attorney. He has given me the name of another attorney that basically handles something down that line. I talked to her yesterday. She was on her way to Brainerd. I am waiting for her to send me her pay scale and her background on this information. So I am hoping to bring this back at the next meeting once I get all this information. And we can discuss it at that time. But right now it's in the process. I'm waiting for her to get the stuff to me. So that's where we're at.
Uh,
Association of Townships doesn't have anybody who can help on this for free? Because pretty soon, we're gonna blow that number right out of the water with all these attorney fees. Does the Associated Townships have anything like this could help us on? Does anybody know?
I think they only have 3 attorneys up there. Steve Graham and that woman.
I don't know, I'm just
Yeah.
asking a question. Cause I thought for the claim, it was roughly $550. Well, if we already talked to our attorney, we just blew a third of it. So that's the only reason I'm asking.
That would be Matt. Since Mike's out of town, I can double check with Matt and see.
Thank you, sir.
Definitely do that. All right, so is there a motion to table this for 2 weeks then?
I'll make a motion, we table it for 2 weeks.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Supervisor Parker,
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke,
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn,
Aye.
Supervisor Olson.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing.
Nay.
Okay, motion passes 4-1. New business. Number 9, office scanner. Pam, did you want to speak to that?
Alyssa does.
Alyssa, do you want to speak to that?
My scanning abilities got worse. So I've been actually waiting to scan and stuff. So the current scanner that we're using is over 10 years old. So I got quotes from 3 different scanners, and one of them is replacing the same exact scanner that we have now. And looking for the board's permission to purchase it. Funds would be coming out of the communication fund, so.
What would that leave left in communications?
It's over 70,000.
Okay.
So the one you want is the exact same one we have,
Correct, because all the drivers are already installed and
and
everything.
that's the 3210.
That is the 3210, correct?
Make a motion to spend $3,210 on the Canon DR603OC. The same
Seconded.
one we have, but new.
All right, motion's been made, seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Parker.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing.
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke.
Aye.
Supervisor Olson.
Aye. All right, motion passes. All right, number 10, online building permit payments. And who would like to speak to that?
Oh, okay, yep. So Baseline, who we've been using for quite some time for our building permits through Rum River, they have an online payment processing through a company called Stripe Pay. They're wondering if we want to move forward with people being able to pay their permits online. That way they wouldn't have to call the office, have us do the payment, submit it through the Baseline. I mean, there's multiple processes. Quite a few people use it currently. And just looking for maybe the board's thoughts and opinions of moving forward with that.
It's easier for the customer, yes.
Not only is it easier for the customer, it's
Easier
potentially
for us.
easier for staff because we're not
Having to do a double transaction or communicate back to them.
correct.
Yep.
And the
I guess-
fees are, we would have to change our fee schedule because we state that running a card is 3.25%. Them, it's 2.9% plus 30. But then they also have for ACHs 0.8% with a max fee of $5. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we had a guy pay $163 in credit card fees. So it's just, I mean, especially with us raising our prices of our building permits, I mean, this is gonna ease up a little bit. I mean, not much.
Personally, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
And then I'm looking for, would the board be for moving with Stripe payments for our processing through in the office and back in recycling? Currently, we use Spot On. And we pay $660 just for leasing our terminals, and I've been pricing it out, and I want to do quite a bit more substantial, more research into this, to what it would benefit us, but we would basically own the terminals outright. We wouldn't be paying that $660 every year for leasing them. And they have better rates than Spot On does currently. So
Sounds like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
We can save money. So then you said that the fee schedule would have to change?
correct,
For
yep.
fee schedule?
We would just have to amend the fee schedule to mirror the 2.9% plus the 30 cents per transaction, but then we would also have to break down the ACHs. Just so it's clear to the public on what's being charged. So, and what's nice with it is we are no longer getting paid them percentages that then we get invoiced for and then we have to pay them. So we only get the money that's owed to us. So
So you're just looking for a consensus tonight and then you'll bring something back? Because we're gonna have to make a motion to change the fees.
It's an ordinance. That's
It's an-
an ordinance change.
Oh.
But what we're doing, we'll be charging less than what our fee schedule is.
Okay. So we're covered.
So, yeah, we could You can write an ordinance just to change this one thing, but you would have the authority to charge less than the
Okay.
fee schedule.
Okay.
I mean, it would have to get changed, but it doesn't mean you can't charge people less than your fee schedule.
Are you looking for a decision tonight?
Looking for a little bit to move forward here. I need a decision to move forward with the stripe pay on baseline as well as township transactions, so.
Okay. What do y'all think?
Yeah, move forward.
I'll make a motion, we allow Alyssa to go forward with the strike payments.
Thank you,
Second.
Mike. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Pam?
Supervisor Parker,
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing,
Aye.
Supervisor Olson.
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke.
Motion passes. All right, comments. Treasurer?
So with our ISO rating decreasing, I reached out to our insurance and was just poking around trying to see if we could get some better rates on our insurance. And that's not something that our insurance does. So they price based on the risk history of all the town members, regardless of their particular ISO ratings. And that kind of matches up a little bit because I was shopping for township insurance at the beginning of the year because it went up so high. Well, everybody's went up so high and nobody could beat these guys. So I just thought maybe I could try to squeak a little more, but I couldn't. ISO ratings mean nothing for them. But there was valid effort.
Yeah, thanks for
So-
trying.
It was a no-go on the CDBG grant for the senior center because we would have to exclusively service seniors 62 and older or serve low income to or moderate income. Because we have rentals, we have Boy Scouts that utilize the facility. Easter, I mean, that we automatically were pushed aside on that. So no bathroom grant for the senior center. I know when we were talking grants, we were talking the Safe Streets and Roads for All. Well, Anoka County is participating in getting developing a Safe Streets and Roads for All plan. And I don't know if everybody got the email, but they're kind of just asking for everybody's input, if any, to go to Eric Thorson at Anoka County. They're trying to gather information from the public that actually uses the roads. So
Sure.
if anybody would like to give information for them, for their Safe Streets and Roads for All, that is a potential possibility. So. Paula brought me a new MPCA grant. I am looking into that and I'll bring that back at a later date just because I need to make sure that the township qualifies for it. So. Some new laws that are coming into place, starting January 1st, 2025, Minnesota employers with 30 or more employees must include salary ranges and benefit descriptions in the job postings. So moving forward with when we look for job postings and we are going to post them, the board needs to set the rate of pay, what the benefits are, and it needs to be all stated out within the position description itself. They're looking for transparency in employment.
That's effective one.
January 1st.
Okay.
Of 25. So.
Okay, yep.
Paid Family Leave Act, effective January 1st, 2026 has been amended. Employers will see an increase in payroll taxes and expanded coverages, including clear benefits for employees and leave on additional protections for small businesses. Enhanced pregnancy and parental leaves. Minnesota now requires employers to extend parental leave without reducing for employment. Insurance benefits for employees on leave must also continue as if they were an employee and did not leave. So that's going into effect as well. More laws on how you can use your earned sick and safe time. They develop those throughout the policy. And another one, minimum wage, effective January 1st, 2025, Minnesota will eliminate alternative minimum wage rates for small employers and minors, ensuring consistent minimum wage practices. So. And they're looking into putting oral drug testing into employers being able to use that too. senior center grant, moving forward, if nobody had any questions on them.
So, so this was the swab in the mouth for the drug test?
It just states that they're looking at putting that forward.
Is that like more accurate than doing the urine test?
I'm
then?
not sure. I'm not up to date on them, I guess.
Probably a lot easier.
So, a little less invasive.
Yeah.
So, with the senior center grant for the coffee maker and the microwave, they're requiring us to have a PayPal business account.
Have a what?
In order to even qualify for this, we need to register through a PayPal business account. Don't have a PayPal business account. I don't like that idea. So I'm just questioning, we decided we were gonna move forward asking for this grant for the $5,000. That's great. But now they're telling me I need this account and I don't like that. So I would like board's decision on how I should proceed.
PayPal business account? What does that entitle?
A $30 a month fee.
Does it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A lot of fees in this world.
Yeah. So what's the alternative then? You said the grant.
We don't
would-
apply for the grant.
Yeah, but I mean, you said it was for a microwave and
And a coffee maker. This is actually for the Walmart.com grant. This is for local Walmarts. But in order to apply, you need to go through a Spark portal, which in return means you have to have a PayPal business account in order to apply. That which also verifies your banking information, your FEINs,
the alternative is that we have to buy the microwave and the coffee maker, and I like that option a lot better than doing a PayPal account.
I agree.
okay.
Thank you. Good list. Pam?
Office staff is doing awesome with them. I don't even know what number we're at.
32 as of today.
32. It just started Friday.
They're coming
Yeah,
in sets
so-
of 4.
Yeah, so, I would ask the board to be patient with office staff because as we get closer, it's gonna be all hands on deck. So it's just what time of year it is and it's just what it's going to be. We will process probably close to 1,000 absentee ballots. So
Wow.
that's besides election day, but yeah. Yeah, because 4 years ago, we did over 600 in the office. So at this point, I don't have plans to ask to hire any judges for that last week,
Just gonna ask you.
but it's a possibility because again, there's still
Leave that. Still gotta run a
minimum
business.
amounts that we still have to do in the
Yep,
office.
right.
So that might be coming down the line here yet. That's really what I've been doing.
Thank you. Thanks for all the effort too with that. All right, Carol?
I don't have anything.
Andy, anything?
Just working with Walters, they got their following up from the joint meeting we had, with Parks. They have, their license is by a professional. I was out measuring the site. We were talking on the grade stuff, doing the slope and doing parking. So they're working with their internal engineer to save us some money before it goes to an architect. They were able to source a Minnesota licensed architect to be able to approve the final plans. And so they're doing a lot of the legwork internally that will then allow for an architect to kind of come in and put a stamp on it. So it should save us some money on that.
That's great.
And then Family Fun Day wrap-up meeting on Monday. So anyone from the public or anybody, welcome, come give some feedback. We're always looking to improve. It's a great event this year, like we said last time with the weather and the parade and everybody. So always looking for a shameless plug of volunteers. So we can get your name on the list a year early. That'd be great.
Anything else?
Sir.
All right, thanks, Andy. Bob?
I was pinged on an email from our senior worker. This church that we let use the senior center. She's been having issues with them. Says, Randy, I'm reaching out to you this morning to remind you my request to not prop open the door with a cement block. I'm purposely using this thread to show that this is not the first time I've asked. The reason we really push this is we've had so many issues with that door, and that door is not easy or cheap to fix. This is the third time she's asked that church not to prop the door. I'm a huge fan of 3 times you're out. She's not been happy with what do I keep hearing? Am I losing my mind?
Parker's clock.
Thanks, Mike. She's been having issues with them cleaning. She's been having issues with them not setting alarms. She's been having issues with them not locking doors. They did pay a fee to use it, security deposit. I just don't know how many more times we can let them use this. Because if they damage a $5,000 door, we can charge them $250 all day long. The security is not going to cover that door. So I just want to bring it up to the board that I'm on this email now. And I think one more time, if she has one more issue, again, I trust Sarah 100%. If she has one more issue, I want to end this now. I hate to say one more time, but this is the first time I've been on the email, and I don't want that door destroyed. So
When I
Just
get back,
let you know.
when I get back, Bob, I'll give a call to the preacher when I get back.
okay. All right, yeah, she's having issues. We got to take care of this. So thank you very much for that. Other than that, that's all she wrote. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bob. Mike, anything?
I'm good for right now, sir.
All right. The only thing I have is, our DW companies, completed the gravel on our dirt roads that we had designated. I drove them all. They did a really, really good job packing them down, getting them level. So we're all set there. I'm looking at possibly having, Shermick Farms come back. There's still money, in the budget for doing, the ditch mowing. And not so much worried about the grass as I am all the small branches that blew down in those winds. So as long as we've still got some budget money in there, I'm gonna have him work on the worst roads and try to get some of that brush mulched up. So when we do go out as Public Works and start cleaning up the rest of it, we're gonna have a lot less of the smaller stuff that we have to work through. And that's all I have.
I'll make a
Alright.
motion to adjourn.
All right, motion's been made, seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Supervisor Parker,
Aye.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ledke,
Aye.
Supervisor Olson.
Aye.
Supervisor Searing.
I
All right, this meeting is adjourned at 8:04.
Have a good night.